Have you ever noticed how some people seem determined to steal your peace? They don't always attack you directly. Sometimes they criticize you. Sometimes they ignore you. Sometimes they disrespect you, provoke you, gossip about you, or simply exist in a way that makes your emotions spiral out of control. Before long, they've occupied your mind without paying rent. They continue living their lives while you're replaying conversations, imagining arguments, and carrying a burden they don't even know exists. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The moment someone can control your emotions, they already hold power over your life. Most people believe strength means fighting back. They think peace comes after winning the argument, exposing the liar, proving themselves right, or making others regret hurting them. But Machiavelli understood something far more dangerous. The strongest man is often the one who cannot be emotionally captured in the first place. A peaceful mind is not a gift. It is a fortress. The people who are hardest to manipulate are not always the smartest, richest, or strongest. They are the ones whose inner world cannot be invaded by the opinions, insults, or approval of others. When your peace becomes untouchable, so do you. Today's world rewards emotional reactions. Every insult demands a response. Every disagreement becomes a battle. Every criticism feels personal. But while everyone else is busy defending their ego, the truly powerful quietly protect something infinitely more valuable: their inner peace. Because once you lose your peace, you begin making decisions from emotion instead of strategy. And emotional people are predictable people. In this video, you'll discover the Machiavellian principles for guarding your peace against manipulation, disrespect, criticism, and emotional traps. You'll learn why silence often defeats conflict, why detachment is your invisible armor, and why the people who remain calm usually control the outcome. But before we begin, write this affirmation in the comments. My peace is my greatest power. That single sentence is more than motivation. It is a commitment to stop handing your emotional stability to people who have done nothing to earn it. Now let's begin. The greatest mistake most people make is believing that power begins with physical strength, intelligence, or status. Machiavelli saw something deeper. Before anyone can control your actions, they must first control your emotions. That is why manipulation rarely starts with force. It begins with irritation. A careless remark, a subtle insult, an unexpected betrayal, or a deliberate act of disrespect is often nothing more than bait. The objective is not to hurt you, it is to make you react. The moment you react emotionally, you reveal yourself. Your fears become visible. Your insecurities announce themselves without words. Your priorities become obvious. Suddenly, the person provoking you knows exactly where your weaknesses lie. They no longer need to guess. You have shown them willingly. Think about the people who remain calm under pressure. They rarely explain themselves. They don't rush to defend their reputation. They don't chase every rumor or answer every accusation. This silence frustrates people because it offers nothing to attack. An unreadable mind is difficult to manipulate. Most conflicts continue because both people keep feeding them. One insult leads to another. One emotional response creates another opportunity for escalation. Eventually, both sides lose their peace while believing they're protecting their pride. In reality, they've surrendered control to emotion. The truly powerful understand that every reaction has a price. Every unnecessary argument drains mental energy. Every sleepless night spent replaying someone's words is a victory for the person who disturbed you. They may never know it happened, yet they've still occupied your thoughts. Guarding your peace begins by recognizing emotional bait for what it is. Not every challenge deserves your attention. Not every insult deserves an answer. Sometimes the greatest victory is refusing to participate in someone else's chaos. The strongest person in the room is often the one whose emotions cannot be recruited into another person's game. When you refuse to react impulsively, you force others to reveal themselves while you remain in complete control. That is the beginning of real power. Most people sacrifice their peace to protect something much smaller, their ego. The ego desperately wants to be right. It wants the final word. It wants recognition, validation, and revenge. It whispers that every insult must be answered and every misunderstanding must be corrected. But Machiavelli understood that the pursuit of ego often destroys strategic thinking. Imagine carrying a heavy stone every time someone offends you. At first, it feels manageable. Then another person disappoints you. Another critic appears. Another betrayal arrives. Soon you're walking through life carrying the emotional weight of people who have already forgotten the incident. The peaceful person puts the stone down. This is not weakness. It is wisdom. Every unnecessary emotional burden steals attention from your own goals. While you're thinking about someone who disrespected you last week, you're not thinking about your future. While you're planning imaginary arguments, you're neglecting opportunities that actually improve your life. Powerful people understand opportunity cost. Every minute spent feeding resentment is a minute stolen from growth. Your ego says, I must prove them wrong. Your peace says, their opinion changes nothing. One path keeps you chained to strangers. The other sets you free. People who constantly seek validation become emotionally dependent on others. Their mood rises and falls according to compliments and criticism. They become easy to manipulate because anyone who controls their approval controls their emotions. But when your self-worth comes from your own standards, outside opinions lose their ability to shake you. Your peace becomes untouchable because it no longer depends on external circumstances. This is why emotionally independent people appear so confident. It isn't that life treats them better. It's that they've stopped allowing every passing opinion to become a personal crisis. The moment you value your peace above your pride, countless battles disappear before they even begin. One of the most underestimated weapons in human psychology is silence. People expect explanations. They expect emotional reactions. They expect long messages defending your intentions and emotional speeches proving your innocence. When you refuse to provide those things, many become deeply uncomfortable. Silence interrupts manipulation. A manipulator survives by controlling the conversation. They provoke, accuse, exaggerate, and wait for you to defend yourself. The more you explain, the more material they collect against you. Every explanation creates another opening for debate. Machiavelli recognized that uncertainty often creates more influence than constant disclosure. Silence forces people to confront their own assumptions. It protects your energy while exposing theirs. This does not mean you never speak. It means you choose your words strategically instead of emotionally. Every sentence should serve your purpose, not your impulse. Notice how truly composed individuals answer briefly when necessary. They rarely overshare. They don't chase understanding from people determined to misunderstand them. They recognize that some minds are already made up. Trying to convince everyone is a losing battle. Your peace depends on accepting this reality. Some people need you angry because your anger justifies their behavior. Others need you defensive because it makes them feel powerful. But silence refuses to participate in either game. There is remarkable strength in allowing misunderstanding to exist without desperately correcting it. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts. Not everyone deserves your explanations. And certainly not everyone deserves your emotional energy. The less available your emotions become, the harder it becomes for anyone to disturb your inner peace. Silence is not empty. When used wisely, it is a fortress no manipulator knows how to enter. Most people misunderstand detachment. They confuse it with becoming cold, emotionless, or indifferent to everyone around them. That is not what Machiavelli teaches. Detachment is not the absence of feeling. It is the refusal to let feelings become chains. The emotionally dependent person gives away pieces of themselves everywhere they go. Their happiness depends on compliments. Their confidence depends on acceptance. Their peace depends on other people behaving the way they hope. This creates a dangerous reality. If someone else controls your emotional state, they quietly control your life. Detachment breaks this invisible contract. You stop expecting fairness from people who have never been fair. You stop chasing loyalty from those who repeatedly choose convenience over character. You stop trying to force respect from people committed to misunderstanding you. Instead, you observe. Observation is more powerful than emotional involvement because it allows you to see people as they are, rather than who you wish they would become. Emotion often blinds judgment. Hope excuses bad behavior. Attachment ignores obvious warning signs. But detachment removes the fog. Suddenly, patterns become obvious. You notice who only calls when they need something. You notice who celebrates your failures more than your victories. You notice who constantly creates drama simply because peace makes them uncomfortable. Most importantly, you stop believing it is your responsibility to fix them. This is where your inner peace begins to stabilize. You no longer spend endless nights wondering why certain people act the way they do. Human nature becomes easier to accept when you stop demanding that everyone possess your values. Machiavelli understood that expecting ideal behavior from imperfect people guarantees disappointment. Detach from expectations, and disappointment loses much of its power. The strongest person isn't the one who never feels pain. It is the one who feels disappointment without allowing it to reshape their identity or destroy their peace. Your emotions become servants instead of masters. And when your emotions obey you instead of everyone else, manipulation loses its greatest weapon. Reputation matters. But obsession with reputation is a prison. There is an enormous difference between protecting your character and becoming addicted to approval. One is wisdom. The other is emotional dependence disguised as confidence. Most people spend their lives managing impressions. They adjust their personality depending on who enters the room. They hide opinions to avoid criticism. They over-explain harmless decisions because they fear being judged. Without realizing it, they have surrendered ownership of their identity. The problem is simple. No matter how perfectly you behave, someone will misunderstand you. Someone will envy your progress. Someone will criticize your silence. Someone will invent stories because reality is not interesting enough. If your peace depends on correcting every false opinion, your life will become an endless courtroom where you are constantly defending yourself against imaginary charges. That is exhausting. Machiavelli recognized that influence does not come from pleasing everyone. It comes from consistency. People eventually trust those whose actions remain stable, regardless of changing opinions. Imagine building your house on sand. Every wave changes its foundation. That is what happens when your self-worth depends on public approval. Every criticism shakes your confidence. Every compliment temporarily repairs it. Now imagine building on solid stone. The weather changes, the opinions change, the people change, but the foundation remains. That foundation is internal conviction. You know who you are before anyone else tells you. You know your values before someone praises or attacks them. You know your direction before the crowd decides whether they approve. This kind of stability is rare because it requires letting people misunderstand you without immediately trying to rescue your image. Ironically, people often respect those who stop chasing respect. Confidence speaks quietly because it has nothing left to prove. When your identity belongs to you instead of public opinion, your inner peace becomes far more difficult to disturb. One of the greatest illusions in life is believing that every conflict deserves your attention. It doesn't. Every argument costs something. Sometimes it costs time, sometimes energy, sometimes opportunities, sometimes your peace. Wise people understand that conflict is an investment, and every investment deserves careful consideration. Before reacting, ask yourself one question. Will this matter a year from now? Most emotional battles disappear under that simple test. The stranger's insult, the online argument, the coworker's sarcasm, the unnecessary family drama. Most of these moments feel enormous only because emotion magnifies them. Time eventually shrinks them back to their true size. Machiavelli admired calculated action, not impulsive reaction. A strategist conserves resources. A fool spends them carelessly. Think of your attention as a limited currency. Every unnecessary conflict withdraws from an account that cannot be replenished. Once your mental energy is gone, your judgment weakens. Small problems feel enormous. Simple decisions become overwhelming. This is exactly what emotionally chaotic people experience. Their peace disappears because they are fighting battles on every front. The disciplined person fights differently. Sometimes they speak. Sometimes they leave. Sometimes they smile. Sometimes they say nothing at all. Every response is chosen, not triggered. This level of control confuses people who thrive on emotional chaos. They cannot predict you because you no longer operate according to impulse. You operate according to purpose. The goal is not to avoid conflict forever. The goal is to ensure that whenever conflict happens, it serves your objectives instead of your emotions. That is how peaceful people remain powerful. Not because life becomes easier, but because they refuse to waste themselves on battles that were never worth fighting in the first place. In the end, every external victory begins with an internal one. You can win arguments and still lose your peace. You can defeat rivals and still become a prisoner of resentment. You can achieve wealth, influence, and admiration while quietly carrying anxiety that no amount of success can erase. That is why inner peace is not the reward of power. It is the foundation of it. The world will never stop testing you. There will always be critics, manipulators, opportunists, and people who mistake kindness for weakness. There will always be moments designed to provoke you into abandoning your principles for temporary satisfaction. The question is not whether those moments will come. The question is whether they will find a mind prepared to resist them. Every time you refuse to react impulsively, you strengthen your discipline. Every time you walk away from meaningless conflict, you strengthen your judgment. Every time you let go of resentment instead of feeding it, you reclaim another piece of your freedom. Eventually, something remarkable happens. The things that once ruined your day barely interrupt your thoughts. The opinions that once kept you awake lose their importance. The people who once controlled your emotions discover they no longer have access to them. That is real independence. Not escaping difficult people, but becoming impossible for difficult people to influence. Machiavelli understood that rulers who mastered themselves became far more dangerous than rulers obsessed with controlling everyone else. The same principle applies to your own life. Master your reactions before trying to master your circumstances. Protect your mind before protecting your reputation. Guard your peace before chasing victory. Because a peaceful mind sees opportunities where emotional minds see only obstacles. A peaceful mind makes better decisions. A peaceful mind cannot be easily manipulated. And a peaceful mind quietly becomes stronger than every storm trying to shake it. The person who guards their peace is not hiding from the world. They are walking through it with a strength that chaos can no longer touch. The greatest battles of your life will never be fought in public. They will be fought in silence, inside your own mind. Every single day, life presents you with a choice. You can surrender your emotional state to the opinions, actions, and expectations of others. Or you can protect the one thing that allows you to think clearly, act wisely, and live freely: your inner peace. Most people never make this choice consciously. They drift from one emotional storm to the next. They wake up in a good mood until someone criticizes them. They feel confident until someone succeeds before they do. They feel calm until an unexpected insult pulls them into another pointless battle. Their peace is not truly theirs, because anyone can take it away with the right words. Do not become one of those people. Remember what Machiavelli understood centuries ago. The person who governs himself is always more powerful than the person who merely seeks to govern others. Self-mastery is the highest form of strategy, because it cannot be stolen, manipulated, or defeated from the outside. The next time someone tries to provoke you, pause before you react. Ask yourself, does this deserve my peace? Most of the time, the answer will be no. Your attention is precious. Your time is limited. Your energy is irreplaceable. Stop investing these priceless resources in people who contribute nothing to your growth. Instead, invest them in your discipline, your purpose, your character, and your future. The world will always contain negativity. There will always be critics searching for flaws, manipulators searching for weaknesses, and people who feel stronger only after making someone else feel smaller. You cannot eliminate them, but you can eliminate their influence over your mind. That is true freedom, when your peace no longer depends on being understood, respected, or praised. You become remarkably difficult to control. You stop living reactively and begin living intentionally. Decisions become clearer. Relationships become healthier. Your confidence becomes quieter because it is no longer built on applause, but on certainty. People will notice the change. Some will admire it. Others will resent it. Neither response matters, because your peace is no longer a public possession. It is your private fortress. Guard it with discipline. Protect it with wisdom. Strengthen it through silence. And remember that every unnecessary reaction is an invitation for someone else to enter your mind without permission. If this message resonated with you, don't let it end here. Let today be the day you stop giving away your peace to people who have done nothing to deserve it. Every calm decision you make is a victory over impulse. Every moment you refuse to be provoked is proof that you are becoming stronger than your circumstances. Now, I want you to make a commitment, not to me, but to yourself. Write this affirmation in the comments. I guard my peace, and no one controls my mind. When you write those words, you're making a promise to choose discipline over emotion, strategy over impulse, and inner peace over temporary satisfaction.